Yes, guys, what's happening? Welcome back to the channel and welcome to tonight's live stream. And the preparations can well and truly get underway for next season. Now the transfer market is in full flow and the Premier League fixtures for the next season have now been released. It's always an exciting time. You can start planning the trips you're going to try and go on. The Christmas period, obviously not one of those this year, which is great for Chelsea. First day of the season when the London derbies are, when all the big games are. It's an exciting time. And George, before we get into it, mate, what fixtures do you tend to look out for when they get released? Anyone that really stands out for you? I suppose Tottenham, I guess, is always. I know they're not really rivals, or they could be potentially next season with the good business they've done so far. But I mean, do you always look out for that one? Any others that stand out?
Yeah, I was looking for Dirty Spurs, and I didn't have to scroll down too far to find it either.
No.
To be honest, I take a slightly different approach. I look at the games that local to me. So, back when I was living where you are in the kind of the south, it was, looking for places like Bournemouth when they were back in the Premier League. Our local derby in Fulham, like a very, very local one. That would be a nice one to come back to as well. Basically the games that I can get to that aren't too far to travel. That's always my first thing. But you always look out for the big ones, don't you? The so-called big six, if you like. Home and away, and see where the tougher tasks come in the season. But lots to get into, mate.
There's plenty to get into. I'll bring the fixtures up on the screen now. Obviously, Chelsea not been too active in the transfer market so far, but that obviously teams in and around us doing bits and pieces. I'm sure the squads will look very different come the 6th of August when we have our first game, actually televised on Sky Sports. It'll be the 5:30 kickoff. And George, you always look for the starting fixtures. The first kind of 5 or 6 is vital to get off to a good start. This is not easy, is it? Kicking off against Everton away, first game at home against Antonio Conte's Tottenham. We've got Leeds away, then Leicester and Saints away. In terms of that month of August, it's a tricky start, isn't it? Particularly that trip to Goodison Park. We've not won there in the last 5 visits. We really, really struggle there. Obviously, I went up last season, just gone. Dreadful performance again. Surely our luck's got to change there. It really has. But yeah, I suppose for us, it's a tricky away game out the way early doors. But I mean, as far as starts go, it's a tough one.
Really tough. I can't remember a fixture list as tough as the start of we've got them this season, to my memory. I remember a few iconic games, when Jose Mourinho first got the Chelsea job. It was Manchester United at home. That was kind of a big statement game. And then in his second season, we had Arsenal at home in our first home game of the season as well. So yeah, it's not an easy start, but I think it's, for me personally, I see it as a positive spin. I think it's better to play tougher fixtures when the league's quite open and teams are finding their feet than it is perhaps when those bigger teams get momentum. So as much as maybe it will hinder us points-wise maybe at the start, I think you will see that fluctuation of a lot of big teams who kind of don't get quite to a canter yet in the early doors. And that's where I think it's a bit more of a level playing field. So I'd rather get those tougher games out of the way. But by no means, it is a really tough start for the Blues.
Yeah, and I think, mate, Everton themselves on the opening day of the season, Everton haven't lost an opening day Premier League fixture since the 11-12 season. So well over 10 seasons now. We've got a poor record at Goodison. Something's going to have to change there. But in terms of, Stamford Bridge, you couldn't really ask for too much of a bigger first game, mate. Antonio Conte's Tottenham, they're doing some great business at the moment. Basuma's in, Perisic is in. God knows how many more they may potentially add. Mate, this is a massive game to kick off the new Todd Boehly era at Stamford Bridge.
Yeah, really, really tasty affair, isn't it? I'm really hoping that you and I both get to go to that game as well. So we'll be doing our best to be at the bridge to see it unfold. But that's the game you want, isn't it? Spurs at home, first game of the season. If you don't need any excuse to get the atmosphere going, see the new signings come into play. And I actually think the Everton game is going to be tougher, even though you might argue that Tottenham are probably a more equipped team to do us over. I think their record at the bridge is diabolical. So I actually think that the first game's tougher than it is at home to Tottenham. I'd expect us to beat Tottenham, even though I expect an entertaining fixture. But yeah, But for me, perfect game at home, first game at home to kind of set the benchmark and to get the crowd going and on side.
And on that, George, obviously this season just gone, the home form at the Bridge has been dreadful. How important is it next season? Obviously, we'll cover it again as we get closer towards the season, but it's so important this coming season that we drastically improve our home form, because that's one of the reasons why we trailed off so much towards the end. So many drop points at home, not winning a lot of home games at all.
So strange, isn't it, as well? Because we base ourselves on a decent home form as a team. And then, anything you pick up away from home is a bit of a bonus. But it was dreadful last season, wasn't it? So just inconsistent. And we need to set those fundamentals to be able to go on and close that gap. And it has to start with winning games at Stamford Bridge. Simple as that. And, despite, again, Tottenham not really doing much at the Bridge last season, it's still not going to be easy, mate. And I know times have changed. The Bridge isn't necessarily a fortress that it once was, but I would still expect us to get 3 points. But we must, I don't think you can really afford to lose more than 3 home games in a season. I really don't.
No, you really can't. I mean, 2 away games in the first 3, 3 in the first 5. I suppose it's good to, I don't know if it's good. It depends if our home form improves or not. But I guess it's good to get some of these difficult trips out of the way. Everton's hard to go to. Leeds are tough to go to as well. I wouldn't imagine they'll be as bad as they were last season. They've already made a handful of decent signings as well. You always look at the ones, I guess, the first big team, I suppose. I know Tottenham were come 4th last season, but the first big one to look out for, I guess, mate, end of September, Liverpool at home. That's going to be a big game as well, mate. How relieved are you though that there's from a Chelsea perspective, that there's no Christmas period this year because of the World Cup? Because we normally have our annual meltdown there and lose loads of games and everything tends to go to shit. So we haven't got one of those.
Yeah, ironically, it's the best Christmas present Chelsea could ask for, not having a Christmas this year. So I think it bodes very well for us because, like you said, mate, I don't know what it is about Chelsea and Christmas, but since I can remember supporting Chelsea, just never seem to have good Christmases other than maybe under Jose. But even then,
couple first years,
yeah. But even then, it was kind of, we were just scraping through and just grinding out results. It seemed quite relentless, but. Yeah, it's all fallen apart in Christmas has gone by for Chelsea, and it's going to be an interesting dynamic this year. Particularly, I know we'll do another video on the internationals and how that format changes as we go into a World Cup in the winter. But certainly from a season perspective, it'll be interesting to see how they come back from that, and whether it's going to take its toll or whether it's going to accommodate us going forward, because it could be something that I think the Premier League needs to look at going forward, for particularly when you've got the rest of Europe doing it, having that break. Interesting.
Mate, what do you reckon? Obviously, World Cup sort of November, and then obviously the first games back afterwards it's Boxing Day basically. October is absolutely stacked. In the month of October, 2, 4, 6 Premier League games in that month, plus there'll be some sort of Champions League games, I'd imagine, and Carabao Cup, etc. That's scheduling for October to get this many games in before the World Cup. It's ridiculous, really. I know we go on about player welfare, players getting injured, etc. How can you be having potentially, I don't know if you're in Champions League as well, 7 games, 8 games maybe, a couple games Champions League in that month, plus maybe Carabao. You could potentially, at a big club, you could be looking at a 10-game month. It's just ridiculous, isn't it?
Yeah, it is ridiculous, but unfortunately, it's the way it is. I don't. Let's get it right. Qatar never should have got the World Cup. Never should have got the World Cup.
Oh well, no, obviously not. Yeah.
No. So while that, obviously now we're stuck with it, so we just have to go with it. But again, it's a bit of a trial to see if future international competitions can be played. At this time of the year, it's going to test us as a squad. It's going to test the Premier League for the first time, having that break. Well, not even really a break, is it? They stop the Premier League, go into international duty and come back. But from a focus point of view, it's very difficult. And like you said, mate, but like absolute cramming in that month before, again, might have a real bad effect on the international side. But also, our results are going to be a bit rushed. Are we going to be, I don't know, I guess Premier League sides are still going to play their full strength sides. Our international managers going to be having a say and trying to tap into clubs saying, look, rest this player, rest that player, and causing havoc. I don't know. Difficult. Our players going to be giving 100%.
Yeah.
For example,
Well, yeah, go
Yeah.
on. No, sorry, mate. I was just going to say,
No, I
like,
was just going to, yeah, go.
it's a good point you make, mate, because like normally in a World Cup, it's in the summer. It would be on now normally, but as you say, it's an interesting dynamic, mate, in terms of like with the World Cup being mid-season, you're not going to want to pick up an injury at the start of the season or towards that kind of October period that rules you out of the World Cup. I mean, how different do you think that could make some of the games, if at all? I know it's kind of quite hard to quantify, but that's got to be playing on a few players' mind, particularly if it could be the only time they're going to a World Cup. It could be their last World Cup. That's got to have some sort of bearing.
I think as professionals, I think you would say that it wouldn't, and you would hope they wouldn't, because actually, like us, you probably think that the majority of Premier League players prefer and put their club in front of their country. And I know that might be quite a diverse opinion because people are always very patriotic in this country and think, the Three Lions means everything. But for me, Chelsea in front of England all day long. Like I'd rather Chelsea win the league than England win any competition, for me personally. But then you're right, mate. You'd be naive to think that it doesn't play on their mind. And as the World Cup gets closer, and that you're going to be an integral part of the first team, are you going to go into those 50-50s? Are you, if it's really getting tough, are you going to back yourself to go 100% and injure yourself for a major tournament? Because let's not forget, those tournaments for these players in a prime injury-free career maybe come around 3 times, 4 times if you're really lucky. So, for some of these players, they may not get another chance to be at the very top of international football and playing regularly. So, and especially where England are at the moment, I know, the Nations League is a bit of a farce, but they do have a good chance at the World Cup, and are certainly in their best era competition-wise that they've been in for a long time. So, yeah, again, some of those players like Thiago Silva, I know how much they rate their international football. He probably puts Brazil in front of Chelsea. So, don't know, mate. Difficult.
But it's a difficult one. But that October stacked with fixtures, that effectively, I guess, with that many games, that essentially almost becomes the Christmas period in essence, really. I guess that becomes the Christmas period, October. That's certainly going to be an interesting time. But also, George, I guess one to also look out for is the fixtures after the World Cup. Obviously, starting on Boxing Day. I suppose quite nice to have Bournemouth at home. I mean, over the years, mate, we have struggled against Bournemouth. They've beaten us a few times when they've been in the Premier League. But to have Bournemouth at home and then Nottingham Forest away New Year's Eve, a newly promoted side as well. And then heading into January, we've got City and Liverpool. City at home, Liverpool away. I mean, those kind of 5 fixtures after the World Cup, they're not exactly easy. What do you make of those? Obviously, Bournemouth at home, followed by Forest away. And then we've got City and Liverpool to bookend January at the start and the beginning of the month. That's going to be crucial as well, that period of the season.
Yeah, because again, it depends on players that are coming back. A lot of players, do they go straight back into the fold, or do we get this classic scenario where if England go deep into the World Cup, that those English players get rested and don't come back into the fold for a couple of weeks and therefore aren't involved in the Bournemouth and Nottingham Forest games? Depending on the teams, the international teams who go furthest, you might have big players in your first team that are out. So it does hold a big bearing. And again, we kind of have that big team cluster in City and Liverpool at a time where, again, Premier League sides are pressing the reset button. So it might work in our favour. It might not, because we might come back very sluggish as well. But you're always going to get a heap of mixed results towards the beginning of the season and after Boxing Day or Boxing Day onwards. You always do. I mean, it's just one of those things. But it'll be interesting because it largely does depend on how well the international sides do and what players you've got in those international sides come back. I don't know what they'll do. Do they come straight back in? I don't know.
Well, this is the thing, mate. I mean, I don't exactly know what the gap is between the World Cup final and the Premier League resuming again. You'd think that if you played all the way up to the final, etc., in the World Cup, you wouldn't come back and then a few days later be straight into play another game. You'd expect them to get some time off. But again, it depends on the situation in the league. It depends how important the fixtures are going to be, etc. It is going to be a little bit of a headache. That's for sure. And it's something we've not seen before. So again, it'll be interesting to see kind of how that plays out. But for sure, it's definitely going to be easier for some teams. Teams that, for example, George, I know Bournemouth and Forest in theory looks quite easy on paper, but actually that's like a month, essentially, 4 or 5 weeks for Bournemouth and Forest, who are going to have not many members of their squads in the World Cup or going deep into the World Cup. That's going to give them a month to rest, do a lot of work on the training pitch. Those two fixtures could actually, in essence, be quite difficult.
Yeah, it's a good point. And that's exactly why it's going to be a very unique season, because you've got teams at home who might not have as many international players, certainly going in the deep stages, and they come straight back into it and they're ready to go because they've had 3-4 weeks to prepare and just concentrate on the Premier League. So you are going to see a huge fluctuation of results, which is, I know the Christmas period anyway always comes up with the mixed results, but it's going to be one of those that we'll just have to see and wait to unfold, because we can't really relate it to anything else because we don't have any history to base it upon.
No, for sure. World Cup final RDs informed us December 18th. So you play that on the 18th. What, it's like 6 days? It's not a lot. I'd be surprised if players that won the World Cup or made the final are going to feature in the first fixtures back. I don't know. You wouldn't expect it, but mate, another crucial part. Hopefully, Chelsea will have something to play for. Is the run-in? What sort of last 4 fixtures or so, last 5 or 6. I mean, George, just looking at the back end of April, from April 22nd, we've got Man United away. We've got United and Arsenal away at the back end of April. 2 games, and we've got 3 games in the space of a week. United away, Brentford home, Arsenal away. And then we finish May with Bournemouth away, Forest home. Mate, Manchester City away on the penultimate weekend of the season. And we finish with Newcastle at home. What do you make of that as a run-in? City away on the second to last day of the season, providing there's anything to play for, there could well be, whether it's from a Chelsea perspective or not, we don't know. But City may well have the league still to play for if previous years is to go by. That's a tasty fixture, City away with 2 to go. But I mean, Arsenal and United sandwiched between each other 3 games in a week, both those away as well. That's tough at the end of April.
Very, very tough running, isn't it? Again, I can't remember too many tougher run-ins than that for Chelsea in years gone by. I remember possibly Carlo Ancelotti, where we had to get a result at Old Trafford and we managed to get one. Joe Cole and Drogba, I think, got the goals there.
I think the Drogba one was well offside, but there was no VAR.
Yeah, we'll take that though, mate. We'll take that. It's all done and dusted now. I can't remember I think in 06 we had United at home, but that the league was pretty much done anyway. We just needed to bash them anyway. Yeah. I mean, you're right, mate. I mean, you would think that City probably would be in the league mix come that fixture anyway, bar a disaster. Chelsea perhaps, and again, like we mentioned at the top of the show, you've got potentially Champions League fixtures in there as well for those potentially 2 sides. Who knows? And that's going to be tasty if Chelsea are in the mix. Whether they will be or not is another question. But even if we can spoil the party somehow, that would be nice. And I think Chelsea do tend to have a trend of starting seasons well and ending seasons well, and we have that shit Christmas middle period always. We were top of the league.
Well, we've been top of the league. I think we've been top of the league the last 2 seasons going into December. We were top with Lampard heading into December. We were top last season going into December. It kind of all just tends to fall apart. So, I mean, if we can kind of, be there or thereabouts. I mean, I'm under no illusions that, realistically, we're not going to challenge for the league title. But let's also not pretend that if we're top in and around November time, October, that we're not going to think, we can win the league. Because you just, as fans, you do just get carried away. But having said that, it is tough. Yeah, guys, as Simon said, make sure you smash the like button, and also if you're tuning in now, make sure you click that subscribe button if you are not subscribed. Really help us out a lot, and we'd appreciate it greatly, mate. I'm just going to bring up a couple of other interesting things. A couple of things that you may or may have not noticed. This here, I think, is quite interesting. I'm just going to bring it up on the screen now. It's the fixtures we've got in and around Champions League games. Now, obviously, we don't know what the Champions League fixtures are going to be, who we're going to be playing. It's a little bit small. Let me try and get that bigger. There we go. That's much better. Right. Again, so George, obviously, we don't know if we're going to be home or away, who we're going to be against. But, we've got Fulham away, for example, after a Champions League game. Liverpool home after a Champions League game. Wolves home, Aston Villa away, Brighton away, and Arsenal at home. How important are those games kind of after a Champions League game? Because playing midweek and then going again at the weekend can be tough. And we do sometimes struggle to kind of pick ourselves up for a league game after we've played midweek. I mean, what do you make of those fixtures after the Champions League game? That match day 2, where we then go straight into playing Liverpool on the weekend, that's probably one of the standout ones. The rest of them, I mean, Villa away, quite tough. Brighton away could be tough as well. What are your thoughts on those?
Always difficult, but I think we're in a luxury position where, well, not at the moment because we don't quite have a squad where we seem to be losing a lot of players, but being a bigger club, we do have the luxury of being able to rotate the squad and still playing quite strong. I would suspect Chelsea should be quite comfortable in the group, even, despite, I don't know the group name. Don't know who it is, obviously, but you would hope Chelsea finish first or second. We've discussed it before. I don't know if they're going to change the Champions League format. I think it's so long-winded, the group stage. They've got to do something with it, whether it's just, 3 games and you just play. I don't know. I really don't know.
And they are changing to a Swiss model in a couple of years' time. It's going to be like one big group stage. There'll be like a few extra games. It'll be like 10 teams in one group or something. I don't know. I can't remember the exact thing, but I think they're changing to what's called the Swiss model. I don't know the exact ins and outs of it, but the format is changing.
Okay, I didn't actually know that, but I want to see a change. Whether that'll work or not, I don't know. But yeah, it is tough but I think we're so used to it now, aren't we? I mean, if you want to be one of the big dogs, you've got to accept that your fixtures are going to be congested, and yes, you get a lot of negatives with that, but I still feel if Chelsea can keep themselves fully fit and compete, you want to compete on all fronts, and in order to do that, look at Liverpool. I mean, so close, but ended up with 2 domestic cups. Could have won the quadruple, but they were in the mix, and that's where you want to be. So as tough as it is, it is going to impact one of the competitions, but you'd hope that the more you're in, the more chance you've got of winning one of them. So that's the aim, isn't it?
I mean, how important is it also, mate? Like, I mean, not all the games are going to be at home before, they're not all going to be Champions League home games going into in the midweek. Some of them are going to be away. I guess it's quite important, really, that we don't end up with teams in the group stage where we're having to go to like the arse end of absolutely nowhere, like in a Champions League group game, and it's fucking freezing, and it's like a long flight. You get back in the middle of the night or early doors Thursday morning, and you're playing a game on Saturday or something. I mean, you want to try and minimize that as much as possible. But as you say, I suppose we're used to it. We've been doing it for years, and you just kind of have to hope that it doesn't take too much out of the team. But yeah, I mean, I'll be interested to see what happens in the Champions League group for sure. But on paper, the games after our Champions League games in the group, they don't look too bad. Again, we'll have to wait, and we might revise that opinion when we see the groups come out and kind of what sort of form we're in. But yeah, on paper, it doesn't look too bad that at the moment. Man, another interesting thing that I wanted to bring up was, I mean, I don't know if we've even noticed this before, but let me just get it on the screen now, is that, strangely enough, is it this one here? No, this one here. Is that, weirdly enough, mate, out of City, Liverpool, Arsenal, Spurs, and Man United, we play all those 5 teams at home and first, and then we play them all away. Now, you might say that's
mad.
That is mad, but you might say, given our home form last season, that might do us a favour. But you've got to say, having to go to all those teams away from home at the end of the second half of the season, that's not particularly favourable.
No, you'd like a mix, wouldn't you? And particularly, I always think you'd rather play those teams earlier on the season away from home, and then when it gets nitty gritty, towards the end of the season where there's points and you start to figure out your place in the league, you want to have them at home in your own, with your own support. To have them all at home might work again to give us that top of the table Christmas vibe, but going away to all these places when they gather even more momentum, I think that's a big ask to but it's that mini league, isn't it? Whoever tends to do the best against the big 6 theoretically should maybe not win it, but be very much in contention to win it.
Yeah, no, for sure, mate. I mean, I've never studied the fixtures that much in detail before, but yeah, I certainly can't remember Chelsea having a situation where it's all all away from home against the big teams to finish up. I mean, that's going to be tough. But again, if our home form's not good, that could work in our favour. But George, you touched on it there. The mini league's obviously really important. Last season, this is another thing that's got to massively improve. We had no wins against City, no wins against Liverpool, no wins against Arsenal, no wins against Man United. And we beat Spurs twice, standard. But like, you know, like that's got to change, hasn't it? We had a draw and a defeat against two defeats against City, 2 draws against Liverpool.
Yeah.
Actually, we did beat Arsenal. We beat Arsenal at the Emirates, and then obviously they did us at Stamford Bridge. I don't know what happened there. 2 wins against Tottenham, and then 2 draws against the worst Man United team in Premier League history. That record's not good enough, is it? And you can see why we kind of in the end almost struggled to get that top 4. We kind of just rolled across the line. How important is it that changes next season as well? Because that's not good enough.
Yeah, and I know we said we also dropped a lot of points at home to teams we should have beaten, like Everton and Brentford and all the rest of it. But actually, you know, I think we can change that quite quickly. You know, we should have beaten those teams, and we were probably, even though we may not be the better sides, we created enough chances. But in those big games, I think other than maybe the Liverpool games and the Arsenal away, we were really second best. I thought, yes, we battered United at home, but just individual errors. And I mean, City, we were nowhere near really in either game. No. And I think when the teams are so good at the top, and particularly when you're trying to close the gap, you have to be at least stopping Manchester City and Liverpool by at least getting draws. But to lose both games against Manchester City and then not to win at least one of the Liverpool games was seriously disappointing. And it's something that has got to change. You look back at Chelsea's leagues that we've won, it's been set on a good home record and beating the big sides when it matters, home and away. And that's exactly what you need to do. And it's easier to say, obviously, but yeah, mate, looking at that, mad. I don't think I've ever seen that, all the big teams at home, and then the second half of the season, all the big teams away. That's madness.
Yeah, that's certainly going to be a tough one. But I mean, yeah, I don't think there's too much more to say on the fixtures really, other than it's tough. It is tough, but at the end of the day, everyone's got to play each other. Yes, it might be more preferable to play teams at the start of the season where everyone's kind of finding their feet, and maybe after the World Cup when people are kind of refinding their rhythm again. But ultimately, over a 38-game season, you play everyone twice. In theory, it shouldn't really fucking matter when you play each other. Really, if we're being honest about it, it shouldn't really make much difference. But you know, I think maybe it does. Again, like if you've got lots to play for and you've got big games towards the end of the season, that can make it exciting for the fans. It can also be like, oh shit, we're doing really well, but we've got these hurdles to get through towards the end of the season. I mean, Jordan, it's early days still. We haven't bought anyone in the transfer market yet, but now the fixture list is out for Chelsea. I mean, you getting a bit more excited for the season ahead now?
Yeah, I am. I mean, it was for us as fans, and obviously doing the podcast and the YouTube channel, it was so good last season to actually be back at the bridge consistently that I haven't done for so many years. And, you know, despite some shit results, and I know obviously you went on the road and some shitters that you had to travel back for, but at the end of the day, that's what we love. We love the journey, now with full crowds back as well. You know, we want to be in the mix. And again, we're going to go again this season. And I am really looking forward to it. You know, this is the exciting part, isn't it? Who's coming in, who's going out. Obviously, we've got a new owner. So it's very, very alien territory for Chelsea for the first time in God knows how many years. And it's just hard when you see, you know, the teams above, like City, getting people like Haaland and just, you know, killing your hope. But, you know, it's the hope that keeps us all going in football. And we go again. And it's, you know, everyone starts on 0 points. Everyone's got a chance. So, may the best team win.
No, for sure, mate. One thing I wanted to just get your thoughts on before we round this stream out. Chelsea's new home kit. The official pictures are now come out.
It better not be that one that you showed me earlier.
The launch is imminent. Let me just bring it up now. There we go. On the screen.
Shared me on Twitter.
Yeah, do you know what, right?
Fucking hell, mate. Mate,
Nike just do us dirty the whole time. What I would say is, right, I think it's an improvement on last season, except they ruin it with the collar. I actually think the simplicity of it is not bad. Look, it's not great at all. It's Nike are just, I don't know. I'd love to be in the design meetings when they kind of sign that stuff up. But like in theory, let me change to this picture because it's a bit better. That looks quite nice, right? In theory, why have they then put that collar on it, which is basically a kitchen roll? Like someone's got like a sheet of Bounty, mate, and just put it around the collar. I mean, seriously, like what's going on?
It does. It looks like they've kind of taken the shirt with a plain collar, taken it to like a under fives like focus group, and they've just been allowed to use felt tip pen and just draw little cartoons on it. It's just like what the thing is. Yeah, it's simplistic, and I think simple is better.
Simple's better, yeah.
There's no creativity in there, is there at all? They're like, right, we've got a blue shirt, which obviously we play in blue, white tick. I quite like the blue outer rim of the Nike ticks. Quite a nice touch. Yeah. Maybe we don't know about this. Is that the sponsor we're going to have? Or,
yeah, we are going to. Three have confirmed that three have got 1 year left on their deal anyway, which expires at the end of the coming season. So I don't think that'll be renewed. I think Bowley will have plans to get a different sponsor in after three kind of snakes us by like kind of cutting ties basically whilst we were under sanctions, and then they came back with open arms. I'd be shocked if their deal got extended at the end of the season. But I mean, yeah, in principle, if you just get rid of that collar at the top, it's okay. Why the collar? I mean, the away kit again, I think looks a little bit better. I don't know if that's been confirmed. And the third kit seems to be sort of like a bit of a gold and black theme, which again looks okay, but again, nothing officially confirmed. But this is confirmed, all but confirmed as the home shirt. So George, overriding thoughts, 3/4 of it is good, but the collar's shit.
Yeah, I think that's a perfect summary. But again, I said last year's kit was shit, and I said I was never going to buy it. And then all of a sudden, I was out there paying well over the odds for it. Yeah, so again, I might probably say this. I'll say the same thing about this. To be honest, I'll probably say not going to get it, and then you'll probably see me in it 2 weeks into the season. So
mate, I'll be there. Tottenham at home, first game of the season, wearing it.
Yeah.
I mean, to be fair, right, last season's right. I thought it was dreadful when it came out, but actually, having said that.
It grew on me.
It did grow on me a little bit, and because we won the Club World Cup in it, I had to buy it just as like as a kind of part of the club history. But now that I've got it, all right, it's not great, but it's nowhere near as bad as I first thought it was going to be. But yeah, I mean that's going to be the home shirt for next season. It should be officially announced in the imminently, really, whatever that means. That's the phrasing that they've used. I don't think it's too bad. I definitely think it's better than this season's just gone. Simplistic, like you, mate, I think is the way to go. You can kind of be a little bit more experimental, a little bit more out there with kind of away kits and third kits. So it'll be interesting to see like when they get officially confirmed what they're like. But yeah, it's an improvement other than the kitchen roll round the collar. But hopefully things. I mean, to be honest, as long as we play well in it, I guess what it looks like is almost secondary. If we win stuff in it, it's fine. If we don't, then
exactly. It's like if you win the league in it, all of a sudden it's the best top going, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. It's like everyone's going to go and buy it. But yeah, guys, that seems like a good point to round out. Thanks so much for tuning in. Thank you for getting involved in the chat. Appreciate all your comments in there, all your questions and stuff. So guys, please do keep doing that each time we stream. Get involved in the chat. Really appreciate all the support. Please do smash a like on the stream. Make sure you subscribe to the channel as well. If you're watching now and you're not subscribed, please just pop over, click that subscribe button. It really helps us out. It's free. It takes no time at all. So please do that. Help the channel grow as we head towards the 1K mark. So we're over halfway through. So please do keep helping us on our road there. There's plenty more to come. But yeah, guys, thank you so much for your support. The season's drawing closer. Hopefully there'll be some more news on signings in the coming days and weeks. That always makes the off-season a little bit more exciting. Chelsea do need to get a move on in that regard. And we'll be back in the next couple of days with the transfer updates, bring you all the latest news on that. But the fixtures are now out and we can start looking forward a little bit more to next season. But yeah, guys, cheers for tuning in. As always, take care and